In the latest beta release, WPCodeBox introduces two significant updates: storing snippets in a functionality plugin and exporting them to create custom plugins. Let's explore these features and how they can impact your WordPress projects. So let's have a look at the new plugin generation feature. We have here this local site on which we have a few snippets defined. We have this PHP snippet that modifies the title of a page and appends the last updated text and the last modified date. And this also has a condition that the current post type is page. In the visual changes directory, we have a JavaScript that changes the page background on scroll, and the CSS snippet that changes the paragraphs to be underlined. These are set to render as external files. If we go to a page, we can see that the last updated text is here and our paragraphs are underlined and the background changes when scrolling. So our snippets work. Now, if we want to export this functionality to a custom plugin, we have this button here that will generate the plugin. We can enter a custom plugin title, let's say custom plugin description, and as the author, let's say custom pluginer. And the version is 1.0. That's okay. So now we can select what snippets we want to include in our plugin. We can select a folder, an individual snippet, or all or none. Let's select them all for this example. Now when we click generate plugin, we will see our custom plugin being created. It's a slug of the plugin title, the name of the archive. And now if you go to this site, here we have now functionality. Let's install the plugin we just generated. Our custom plugin, install and activated. Now we have our custom plugin active. We can see the title we entered here, the description and the author. Now when we go to the front page of this site, we can see the last updated date. We can see the paragraphs are underlined, and when we scroll, the background changes. So which means all our snippets are working. So they are all executing from our custom plugins. We never had WPCodeBox on this site installed, so this is how you can generate standalone plugins from your WordPress snippets. In the next section, I will show you how the code that is generated looks and how you can make changes to it if the need arises in the future. So this is the custom plugin we just generated, opened in a code editor. This is the main plugin file where we can see the plugin name, description and author that we defined in WPCodeBox. The next line prevents the plugin file to be accessed directly. And then we include the WordPress context class. This is the only class that is needed to render the WPCodeBox conditions, because handling a condition includes a bit more code that you would include in a snippet, and that code wouldn't be readable. In the next section, we include the snippet. So each snippet will have its own PHP file, and that will be included here. The reason to do this is that you can easily disable a snippet by commenting out the line on which the snippet is included. So if we do this, we disable this functionality. Okay, so now let's look at our PHP snippets. The snippets are stored in the snippets folder, and they are stored in their respective folders that we had in WPCodeBox. This one wasn't in a folder, so it's just in the snippets folder. And then this is the generated code. Again, we have a check that the file is not accessed directly. And then we add the action. This is the action we selected in WPCodeBox when we created a snippet. And then here are the conditions. So we use the WordPress context class. I called it this way because it gives us the current WordPress context. And then the condition we set is that the current post type is page. And I think this makes it really readable. So the condition here is that the current post type is page. For example, if you would want to modify this snippet directly, you could do post here, and this will apply to posts going forward. But let's leave it to page. And then we have our filter that modifies the title. This is the code in WPCodeBox. And we have the priority again that we defined in WPCodeBox. So this is the code required to run our snippet. For external rendered JavaScript and CSS, we have the snippets in Visual Changes. So this is the code that will render the JavaScript. We can see here we had WP head selected in WPCodeBox, and it will include the JavaScript from the plugins assets folder. So external CSS and JavaScript are stored in the assets folder in the respective folders from WPCodeBox. So here we have visual changes and the CSS that makes the paragraph underlined. And in JavaScript we have the change color on scroll that changes the background color when scrolling the page. And so when you create an external JavaScript or CSS, what WPCodeBox does, it creates a PHP snippet that includes that style, and the actual snippet code puts it in assets. So for example, now when someone would view the page source of our site where you have this plugin installed, it will just see that it loads a CSS file called paragraph styling from the custom plugin folder. So nothing related to WPCodeBox, and no IDs are present in the snippet names. I know you didn't like that. So yeah, this is basically how generating the plugin works. We have the conditions included inside the snippet. Everything should work transparently, and it doesn't use anything from WPCodeBox. Now let's have a look at the functionality plugin. What the functionality plugin does is allow you to run your code snippets from a custom plugin while having WPCodeBox running. So for example, we have these snippets here that modify the post title, again change the page background on scroll, and adds the last updated date to the page title. If we refresh, we can see everything works here. Okay, so let's go to the plugins page and see what plugins we have activated. Now we have Advanced Custom Fields Pro and WPCodeBox 2. This means that our snippets now run from the database. WPCodeBox executes them from the database the usual way as the other code snippet managers. But now if we go to the functionality plugin button, we have the option to enable the functionality plugin. Once we do this, it's working and it's done. What happened now is WPCodeBox created another plugin called the WPCodeBox functionality plugin, and all the snippets will execute from inside these plugins. When you make a change now to a snippet, let's say last updated, last changed, and we save it, WPCodeBox will keep this plugin in sync with your snippet. If we go here and we refresh, we can see the word change info instead of updated. Okay, so when you have this installed, WPCodeBox will detect that and will stop executing or querying for snippets in the database. It's basically just an UI that keeps this plugin up to date with your snippets. So all your snippets now execute from the functionality plugin, as I said. When we disable WPCodeBox, we can also remove it, but this is a dev site and I would rather not do that. You can see we still have the functionality working. This is because all the snippets run from the functionality plugin, so they are unrelated to WPCodeBox. Another option I've added to the functionality plugin settings is the ability to download the functionality plugin. This will allow you to download the WPCodeBox functionality as it is now. Enable snippets will execute, disable snippets will be included but will be commented out. This is useful for backing up all your snippets that execute in WPCodeBox. You can use the generated functionality plugin on another site, but it would be better to just use the export plugin feature, because the functionality plugin includes some WP-Codebox related stuff, like it outputs the auto reload code if the current user is an admin, and it tries to detect errors in your snippets. The generated plugins don't do that and have no relation to WP-Codebox. So let's look at the functionality plugin code now. So here we have our site running and our functionality plugin code here on the left. So for example, if I make a change now, let's say you see last change, let's say we say last modified, and we save, you can see the plugin updates. This is where the snippets will execute from, as I said. If we go to the plugin folder, this is the functionality plugin. As you can see here, we have some preconditions. These preconditions will check if it's a WP-Codebox request. We don't want to run snippets in WP-Codebox requests. In case something breaks, you still want to have access to WP-Codebox, and it also checks for safe mode. So if safe mode is enabled, it will not execute the snippets. So this is most of the difference between the functionality plugin and the plugin generated using the export to plugin feature. And this plugin is always kept in sync with the changes you make. So for example, if we disabled this snippet at last updated to the title, and we go here, you can see this snippet is commented out, so will not execute. If we enable it, it will enable. So the functionality plugin is mostly used while you're actively developing a site and you want all the WP-Codebox functionality alongside with the plugin. So for example, CSS live reload and the safety of not running snippets in WP-Codebox requests. It's better that you use the functionality plugin. WP-Codebox, as I said, detects that and it won't run the snippets from the database. The database is used just to render the UI. So basically WP-Codebox becomes an UI to generate and execute this functionality plugin. If there's a problem with a snippet in your plugins, it's just enough to deactivate the functionality plugin and then the snippets won't execute. You can fix the issue in WP-Codebox or in code and then activate the functionality plugin again. So this is the functionality plugin and the generate plugin feature. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments below. Thank you.